please do get 1280 kg. Bigeminy was the previous slide, and of course when you see bigeminies you want to always think about premature ventricular contraction leads. And interesting, if you look at the data, even a normal heart, the prevalence for PVCs are surprisingly not uncommon. It's 1% prevalence over a 2 minute and 80% over a 24-hour period. So we all tend to exhibit some form of PVCs on a daily basis. And of course, as we age, as people develop heart disease, then the prevalence of PVCs tend to increase. And there is some prognostic significance to PVCs. It might suggest that, that there could be underlying coronary artery disease as well. And of course, unchecked PVCs, if it continues like the previous slide that showed bigeminies, can cause tachycardia-induced cardiomyopathy. And of course, we don't have good data to show that controlling PVCs actually make a difference. So this is just to show you an example of a secondary VAV block movements type 1 in a patient with sleep disordered breathing. And of course, if you have sleep disordered breathing, you're likely to have a higher amount of PVCs, PACs, and atrial fibrillation. Again, as I'm running out of time, I'm just going to skip through a few slides here. This is just a slide to show you that if you were to have obstructive sleep apnea, the odds of having atrial fibrillation is 4 times higher. So that's something, this is a cross-sectional study, and so it's something to keep in mind in patients with obstructive sleep apnea. Similarly, if you have obstructive sleep apnea and it's left untreated, the likelihood of cardiac motion to convert AFib back to sinus rhythm, the likelihood of the patient staying in sinus rhythm is going to be lower if you have untreated obstructive sleep apnea compared to if you have treated sleep apnea. And that's basically what the slide shows out here. And again, if you look at the incidence of atrial fibrillation by obstructive sleep apnea status, the incidence for AFib is higher than people without obstructive sleep apnea. So I think the take-home point out here for AFib is obstructive sleep apnea is very common. Obstructive sleep apnea is also an independent risk factor for developing AFib, particularly if you have significant oxygen desaturation. And if you have patients with AFib who are cardioverted and have untreated obstructive sleep apnea, they're more likely to revert back into AFib. And so if you do see patients with obstructive sleep apnea and AFib, it makes sense to treat the sleep disordered breathing in these particular patients. So sudden death, I think in the general population, as you can see, the risk for sudden death, the time occurrence is different. It seems to peak around the midday compared to people with no obstructive sleep apnea. And when you look at obstructive sleep apnea, here you can see that the risk is a lot more in the early morning hours for the reasons we talked about earlier with the REM issue. And also the sudden cardiac death increases as your sleep disorder breathing tends to be worse. The odds ratio is pretty high, the relative risk is pretty high. Okay, this is chain strokes, and with this I'll hopefully close my talk here. This is to show that if a patient with congestive heart failure has chain strokes respiration, the survival, it's an indicator of prognosis compared to people who don't have central sleep apnea or chain strokes respiration. These are the risk factors for chain strokes respiration. So male, PCO2 of less than 38, and the reason for that is because, of course, if you have CHF, your minute ventilation is high, so you tend to go down your PCO2. Atrial fibrillation and age more than 60 years. And I think we all know how to go about managing patients with CHFs. There's some studies that show that nocturnal oxygen therapy tends to help. CPAP works in some patients, and in fact, that's what the clinical practice guideline from the American Academy of Sleep Medicine also suggests that you could use CPAP. ASV till recently, and we'll touch upon that here. This is the CANPAP trial, which actually showed overall that CPAP did not do a good job in these patients with chain strokes respiration, despite the fact that it seemed to help with oxygenation, helped with your ejection fraction, and helped with both the minimum and the mean oxygen saturation here. And of course, if you look at the post-hoc analysis closely, despite the fact that the overall study did not show an improvement in the primary outcome measure, the post-hoc analysis for the folks who had their sleep disorder breathing well controlled with CPAP, the survival was better compared to the other groups. So this is actually one of the reasons why the task force that came up with the clinical practice guidelines still suggests that we could use CPAP for treatment of change strokes respiration, and if they fail, then we look at other treatment modalities. And unfortunately, till the SIRF came by, we were using ASV as a way to treat these patients, and as you all know, this ended up showing increased cardiovascular mortality in the ASV arm with an annual mortality rate of around 10% compared to 7.5 in the control group, leading to ResMed issuing a safety notice to the point that none of us are now using ASV as a treatment modality for these patients with change strokes respiration, particularly with an EF of less than 45%. Of course, then what we do for these patients, we end up going to BiPAP SV or looking at CPAP or looking at oxygen, though the insurance coverage with oxygen therapy is always a big problem to tackle. And this is looking at a good old study that showed that BiPAP SD, bilevel positive pressure with a backup rate, tends to do a better job compared to CPAP or oxygen therapy. And of course, ASV did a lot better job than the other modalities of treatment. There are other options, including using theophylline, acetazolamide, though these are small studies. Carbon dioxide by increasing dead space. Again, though research-wise it looks good, but from a practical purpose, doing that is not easy. And this is just to show you that increasing dead space, by increasing dead space, you actually increase your PCO2 levels, and thereby you see a significant decrease in the sleep disorder breathing in these patients. Atrial pacing, cardiac resynchronization therapy can also help to reduce your apnea-hypopnea index or your central apnea-hypopnea index. Heart transplant, though completely doesn't treat it, it does tend to reduce it. And use of benzodiazepines by decreasing are also might sometimes help a little bit too. This is again showing the effect of resynchronization therapy where the apnea-hypopnea index seems to come down. This is with heart transplant. You can see a reduction in the overall central apnea-hypopnea index, but again, it doesn't completely resolve altogether. And after heart transplant, some of these patients also gain weight. So you might see a transition from central sleep apnea to obstructive sleep apnea in these patients. So even if they get heart transplant, you may need to follow these patients closely for obstructive sleep apnea because some of the immunosuppressive agents that they use ends up letting them gain weight as well. So that was a quick rundown. Hopefully you can take off your seatbelt now. And so we covered a few things here, including homeostasis, cardiovascular homeostasis, and normal sleep. We talked about the scoring rules, sleep duration and depth, and then the effect of obstructive sleep apnea and various cardiovascular outcome measures, and then change strokes respiration as well. Again, thank you for staying around. I really appreciate being here. Thank you.
For Dr. Piramon? No, I have a question.
Sure, please.
One of the things that how you give such a great lecture. Thank you very much. One of the questions that I have is that pulmonary hypertension and preventive way. What about BiPAP?
Sure, thank you. And I didn't have a chance to cover pulmonary hypertension for the reasons that we just talked about. This whole topic is a big topic to cover in 1 hour. So pulmonary hypertension, of course, it's again a little bit of a bidirectional flow too. So if you have pulmonary hypertension and obstructive sleep apnea, you do need to for sure treat the obstructive sleep apnea. Not all these patients with obstructive sleep apnea, when you treat it, does the pulmonary hypertension necessarily get better. However, there might be a small decrease in the mean pulmonary artery pressures in these patients. But you may need to end up using some other treatment modality to help them, and that's where using whether you go with any of the prostacyclin analogs or whether you go with PDE inhibitors like sildenafil or Cialis or one of those medications might depend on the direction that might happen following treatment with obstructive sleep apnea.
I'm always intrigued by the phenotype of sleepiness plus sleep apnea equals cardiac disease apnea doesn't necessarily equal cardiovascular problems. And I was wondering that there's some very old data that suggests that once you've had obstructive sleep apnea for 10 years or more, that you've remodeled your vascular bed, and you're no longer pliable or adaptable to treatment of sleep apnea and reducing that risk. So maybe those patients who are sleepy are fresher sleep apneas, you have a more recent onset of sleep apnea. And I was wondering if you had any insight into that relationship. Is it because they have fewer years for sleep apnea, therefore they sense the difference and they have subjective sleepiness, or is that not related at all?
That's a great question, a great comment to Dr. Chedek. I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. It actually maybe goes back to a little bit of the phenotyping and genotyping that tends to happen too. So why is it that some patients with severe obstructive sleep apnea are not sleepy? And this is just, by the way, this is even if you exclude some of the subjective measures out, because self-report is always fraught with some bias too. So even if one were to take that out, why is it that not all obstructive sleep apnea patients are sleepy? Why is it that some are not and some are so? Whether this is related to an increased arousal mechanism in some people, because that's where then you go back to looking at the phenotype of these patients. So do the non-sleepy folks have a different threshold for arousals compared to the sleepy ones? And does it mean that their apneic durations are shorter? Does it mean their amount of hypoxemia is less? The amount of intrathoracic pressure swings are different? Those are all open to speculations. I'm not sure I have a good answer because I don't think we've necessarily dived into the depths of trying to figure out how do these different phenotypes with obstructive sleep disorder breathing pan out in terms of cardiovascular outcomes. But that's definitely something ripe for some further investigation, particularly as we start looking at treatment, where the Harvard group is doing a wonderful job in trying to personalize some of these treatment modalities based on the phenotype of these subjects with obstructive sleep apnea. Maybe we'll find out some more answers here down the road. I know that's not a good answer to your question, but that's a great point, and I think this goes back to looking at the phenotype and precision medicine art, looking at individualized medicine as a way to tease these things out further.
Actually, this is the reason when I first started thinking about CME. I started calling different colleagues of mine. One of them is a very renowned cardiologist. I said, I'm going to talk about the sleep. Can you join? He said, that's not my subject. So I hope you understand why it is so important, Dr. Miller. Thank you very much. Now, we are going to have a break. It's already 3:25, so let's meet at 3:40. Thank you.